Hello, everyone. Welcome to King Po Myers, and we are here on another holiday special of a St. Patty's Day, and we are with Sam from Sam So Spooky. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Happy St. Patty's Day.
It is it's just an interesting day. It's when an entire country thinks that they're Irish. It's a very unique holiday. So,
Yeah, well, America definitely likes to every holiday suddenly be a different culture just to party. Any excuse to party, really.
yeah. Have you had the green bear? I have not had the green beer yet. I know that's very popular.
No, I
I,
have not.
no,
I've also never had that green shamrock shake everyone always talks about from like what is it, McDonald's?
I've had 3 Shamrock Shakes this month, and they are delicious. Get your Shamrock Shakes, folks. So grab your a nice pint of Guinness and listen to us talk about some great. That's an interesting adjective to use. We're gonna talk about some Irish themed horror movies. Not all horror. Some of them
Yes,
are
we are
just
going to talk
comedy.
about
Leprechaun,
yes.
yes, Leprechaun. Um, so as our viewers probably know already, Sam is a trooper, and Sam just goes into the breach and says, "I'm going to watch all of these movies, and I'm going to have a good time." And Dylan says, "I don't need that. I'll watch the first one, and then I'll be done with it." So Sam, going overall, what is your opinion of Leprechaun? Just to start off.
So, overall, Leprechaun is I mean, you have so many cult classic horror series, right?
Hmm.
Like when you think of Leprechaun, you're also thinking of things like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, just like classic horror franchises.
Hmm.
One of the bigger differences though is Leprechaun knew it was absurd and aimed to be absurd. All right. It's dark comedy. It's meant to be very just comical and silly while also being in the horror genre. All right. Like, at least, like, sure, Freddy and from Nightmare on Elm Street, he definitely had like lots of sarcasm and humor, but that was still, there was a lot of horror in Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, he was going in
Hmm.
your dreams and he was killing you in a lot of fucked up ways. Um, Not so much with Leprechaun. Yeah, it's a little bit more of like, I'm gonna kill you, but I'm gonna make fun of you first, and I'm gonna do it for like, what's the runtime? Like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. Um. So let's just jump right in. Leprechaun 1. This is the one I did watch, and I had fun with it. I really did. I watched when I was like 9 or 10 years old, so it's been a long time coming. Rewatched it again, I think last week, and I had a ball with it. I mean, you have what, Jennifer Aniston's first movie appearance.
Yeah, which she denies for the most part, but yeah.
She denies it.
Oh yeah, even if you look up interviews with Warwick Davis talking about Leprechaun, he even says it himself. He's like, yeah, I don't think she really likes being associated with it. And then the further you look into it, she does say that she's not proud of that film. She's like, yes, I did it, but also like, it's not my thing. I'm not very proud of it. And like, crazy enough, they actually offered her $25,000 to return for the second film, but she turned it down because didn't want to keep being in those films, and also she landed the gig on Friends around that same time. So see where the split off happens.
That
But and the
is,
crazy thing too is that part of Leprechaun's success came from her being in that film, and then she's
yeah.
like, "No, that wasn't not me."
Wow. To openly deny it. That's wow. I mean, if she had, had a different mindset, I mean, she could be like the Jamie Lee Curtis of the Halloween franchise, only with Leprechaun. Like, imagine Jennifer Aniston having
Imagine.
a multiple appearances in Leprechaun.
Would have been a very different career for her.
I think they would have been better, because one thing I will say about the first one is, though she's a young actress in this, like she really, like, maybe it's just because I love Friends, I love Rachel Green, but she really kind of makes it more serious, because you have a bunch of clown actors really just kind of being goofus, like
Yeah.
just total doofuses, and I'm like, and then you have Jennifer Aniston, like, no, we need to stop the Leprechaun, like, like I actually believe you, like you're making this serious, Jennifer Aniston, so you were in this movie, accept this. What did you
She
think?
has she's a very dominating demeanor. She definitely
Yes.
captures the attention. And the director, when coming up with the roles, was like, I want Jennifer Aniston for this one. Like he already kind of knew that that was the
Hmm.
person he wanted to play the main character. Um, I would have liked it more. I think I would have rather had her deal with Warwick Davis for 8 movies than deal with Ross. I want everyone to know I'm a Friends fan, okay? I'm a Friends fan. But I don't care for Ross. And when I look back on it
Oh,
now, I definitely don't care for Ross. He has his moments, but the guy Rachel deserved better. Sorry, not sorry.
yeah, because she should have ended up with Joey, because that was just the story arc that everyone wanted.
Oh my god, though. He was so sweet and like understanding, like
That
compared
was
to
the
fucking
worst thing.
Ross.
That was the worst thing that's ever been on television. Joey trying to seduce Rachel. I'm sorry, this is becoming a Friends rant, but no, 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 no.
Well, let's get back then to the Leprechaun film itself, because I have some other things to tell you about it, which is okay.
Tell
So
me
you
your fun facts.
remember, well, actually, before I even get into the fun facts, I want to talk about how interesting it is too that the Leprechaun franchise, in its being absurd and just going balls to the wall with everything they do, they
Mm-hmm.
also reference a lot of other horror films. And I don't know if you noticed this when you watch Leprechaun 1, it's not really mentioned in any trivia or anything. It was just something I kind of noticed. But like the part where I almost wanted to call her Rachel again. I forget what her actual character name is in the movie, but so I'm just gonna call her Rachel.
Yeah, it's Rachel.
She's on the phone, and the Warwick's tongue comes through the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, that's Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
right there.
Yep.
And then when they're doing the low running shots of her running away from Warwick, I mean, sure, it's his perspective because it's down low, but
Mm-hmm.
also like the way the camera's like filming her feet and kind of just wobbling back and forth. I'm like, that's very Evil Dead.
Hmm.
That's Ash running through the woods with that low
Yep.
camera kind of following from that perspective.
Nice catch. I saw Evil Dead in college, and it was at a party, so I don't really remember that much. But good on you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then the fun trivia fact I really wanted to tell you was okay, one of my favorite lines in the film is "fuck you, Lucky Charms," said by the little boy when he slingshots a piece of gum with a 4-leaf clover in it into Warwick Davis's mouth to kill him. And I found out later, upon my research, as always, you people know me, that that line was not directed necessarily at Leprechaun. It was directed at General Mills themselves. Because apparently, when they were creating the movie, they went to General Mills about, hey, we want to include some Lucky Charms things in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And they okayed it. But then after General Mills saw the film, they wanted to revoke those rights because they didn't like what they saw. And so the the director and the film crew, being mad at that, put in the line, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms." It's directed at General Mills.
Oh my god, that's so good.
It makes that line 10 times better.
It really
Oh my
does.
god.
It really, really does. And at one point in the movie, I know
Yeah.
he's going through like cereal, and like he eats some Lucky Charms, and then he spits them out in disgust.
Yeah, he hates it. He's like, "Bleh." There's like 3 references, I think, in the film overall. There's when he's eating it. I think there's something else maybe with the box itself, and then the line.
Hmm. That
Also,
is,
did you notice that the death count in the first film is rather low?
it's very
There's really
low.
there's not a lot of deaths going on despite it being a horror movie. There's only, what is it? 4. There's only 4.
Wow. I was noticing that during my rewatch, like it's towards the end of the movie, and I'm like, wait, I know the Scooby Gang survives. Obviously, they don't kill Rachel. I mean, they really didn't kill many people. But I mean, the deaths that they did have, I mean, he what? The old woman falls down the basement stairs and breaks her neck.
Yeah.
The her
The
husband dies later on in the film by being thrown onto an elevator or through an elevator. The cop,
Yeah.
and the cop was actually
And the pawn shop guy with the pogo stick.
that I and the guy, like, he was all bloody and just like, horribly beaten. I'm like, you'd have to be jumping on a pogo stick for a while before that would happen. And
Yeah, you would have to that would have to be so fucking like I was thinking about that when I was rewatching it, like how hard you would have to hit someone to go through their body with a pogo stick, especially repeatedly while you're jumping. So, or like, and to balance it on top of him too, like.
yeah,
But
this
of course, that was the one scene I remembered most from when I watched it as a kid, oddly enough. Like, that was the
hmm
one scene that burned into my childhood brain. It was a very, very different experience from seeing it as a kid, which I don't even think I mentioned this yet. So out of all the movies,
mm,
Leprechaun 1 is the only one I'd ever seen before. I watched it when I was little. But when I did my binge watch, I rewatched it obviously to get started with the rest of them. And very different experience as a kid. Like, I wasn't necessarily scared of the films. However, I was like, kind of on par with Chucky. When you're
hmm
little and the monster's as big as you are, makes things a little bit different. Makes it just a little touch more frightening.
just a bit. I mean, you just mentioned the scene that you've had since you were a kid, and you always remembered that scene. For me, it was the ending when he's trying to get his coin out of the guy's stomach, and he's just like
Hmm.
trying to tear him open. Like, that always stuck in my mind. Great little scene. One thing I
Yeah.
will say I loved about Leprechaun was, like, when I was watching it, I think I messaged Sam a couple of times with just these one-liners. Like, Leprechaun has some of the best one-liners of all time. My absolute favorite, I had to pause the movie because I couldn't stop laughing. At one point, we'll call him Ross because I can't think of his name. The guy that Rachel wants to get with, we'll call him Ross. The
Yeah.
leprechaun bites his leg, and he bites it pretty good. So he's limping the rest of the movie. And during the final battle with the leprechaun, he's chasing after the big guy because the coin is in his stomach. And as he's running by, he just goes, "How's your leg?" And he hits the guy's leg, and he just yells and falls. And the leprechaun just runs out, and I just died. I could not stop laughing because it was so fast and it was so quick. I'm like, did he just improv that? Because so perfect. So perfect.
I think you'll be happy to know that a lot of the comedy in the film was Warwick Davis himself. Um, when they originally were coming up with this movie, it was only supposed to be horror. It was just supposed to be straight horror. But Warwick Davis was the one who was like, can we shift this to a more comical tone?
Mm-hmm.
And that decision of his, like, I can only imagine how he would feel if he knew that was going to set the tone for 8 freaking movies. Just that one decision to shift it a little bit. And I if anyone's read it or not, some of my reviews that are up on Sam So Spooky, I mentioned that I feel like when I'm watching these films, So Warwick Davis was in his early 20s when he did this. I think he started Leprechaun when he was 22 or 23. And I'm watching it and I'm like, you were just having fun, man. Like this was you having a freaking ball. Like any fun thing you could do. Like in the first film alone, there's a mini car he drives. He's on roller skates. He's running around a hospital in a wheeling a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the skateboard in the hallway. Like this dude is just having a freaking ball. The pogo stick. I mean, he was like, "Give me all of the absurd fun things to do." The what?
Yeah, I love when he finds the car and he's like, "Oh, look at the Irish." I'm like, "God damn it!" I can't. Movie ends in, typical horror movie fashion. Fire is just your best friend if you're up against some supernatural evil. They throw him down a well after they said, "Fuck you, Lucky Charms," as Sam eloquently put. Took a 4-leaf clover, stuck it in some gum, took a slingshot down the pipe. But that didn't kill him. He's like crawling back. And then I think Frost just kind of hit him into the well and was like, "Gotta burn you."
He has has a weird way that he's like melting, kind of like it's reminiscent of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
The guy when he's melting, very similar. So but I don't even think we mentioned this yet. So yeah, that's the whole thing in the film is a 4-leaf clover will immobilize him. So he actually spends 10 years locked in a crate just because there's a 4-leaf clover on top of it. And then the second Rachel brushes it off, he breaks free. And then the whole thing is they have to find another one. There's also one thing in this film that I want you guys to know they never reintroduce again, and I don't know why, which is that if you apparently, like, if there's a thing where if he finds shoes or you throw shoes at him, he has to polish every single one. He can't not polish shoes. And there's a scene where they're just throwing shoes at him and he's just polishing them going, while they're getting away.
I really
but
thought
like
you
they
wouldn't
never
remember.
reintroduced that concept again. They never reintroduce it.
That was so painful. So bad.
So on that note, I want to also let our viewers know, and you as well, because you only watched the first one. Another beautiful thing about the Leprechaun series, unlike any of the other franchises for the most part, you can watch any film individually. Like there is no consistent narrative between all of it. There's like no film carries over into the other one. Even the small segment within the 8 films that's Into the Hood and then Back to the Hood, like those two there, even those aren't consistent. They're two completely different narratives. Like you can watch any film individually because they don't really reuse the same concepts over and over again. So like there's different things they introduce of ways that he like can be killed or that he dies or just all kinds of different things. Like in the first film it's a 4-leaf clover, but later on there's this thing about a medallion. And so if he's wearing it, he's turned to stone, but if he's not wearing it, obviously he's free.
I mean, well, now I have to ask. I mean, going to Leprechaun 2, do they explain? Because he was burned and destroyed at the end of the first. It was kind of just like his spirit kind of remained. So in the second one, they just start fresh?
Yeah, so that's another fun thing is like all these films minus Into the Hood. Into the Hood is the only one where he's still alive at the end. But all the other films he dies. Sorry, spoiler. But like they never explain how he comes back in the next film. It just starts off a whole new fucking way.
See, if Rachel had been there would have been continuity and it would have been perfect.
But see, again, this is a part of that lovely absurdity of there is no continuity. You want to know how he comes back in 2?
Please tell me.
He comes out of a tree thanks to a hobo's whiskey bottle. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when he comes back and he takes the whiskey bottle and he takes a swig of it, he looks at the bottle in disgust and he goes, "Canadian whiskey? Everyone knows Irish whiskey's the best."
I
And then
just
he kills the hobo. Also, every film is just like a completely wildly different place. So like the very first film, it should be noted, doesn't even take place in Ireland. It takes place in like North or South Dakota.
with
And then the
two
second film
immigrants
takes place
from
in
Ireland.
LA. Exactly. Second place is in LA. Third place is Vegas. Fourth is space. 5 and 6 is in the hood. No specifics, but I'm pretty sure it's the first one is in Brooklyn, just based off of like some of the streets and views. And then it should be noted that the very last two films, 7 and 8, they do not include Warwick Davis, but they're part of the franchise.
Are 7 and 8 through WWE Productions?
I don't know about 8, but 7 is.
Because do they get, because they had like a midget wrestler for a while. I'm a wrestling fan, so so Hornswoggle plays the Leprechaun.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's just nodding at me, and I'm really distressed by this nod. How was he as in Leprechaun?
Do you really want to know? Because you're going to be kind of unhappy.
Tell me.
So so the seventh film is Leprechaun Origins. It comes out in 2014. It actually takes place in Ireland. It follows a group of teenagers who are backpacking through Ireland and kind of end up in a shit situation, very Cabin in the Woods-esque.
Okay.
Which is funny because I was like, when did Cabin in the Woods come out? And then I looked it up and it came out actually like 2 years before Origin. So I was like, maybe we were inspired a little bit, possibly. But either way, very traditional Cabin in the Woods kind of story. And then it's very frustrating because the leprechaun himself, you just get little glimpses here and there. You never fully see the leprechaun until kind of towards the end, really. And it doesn't talk. It's nowhere near what Warwick Davis is, okay? It's not the classic little leprechaun outfit. There's no rhyming or talking or cheap comebacks and deaths. Like Origins is like, no, we're not a comedy. We're very much just horror. And Hornswoggle actually said, which I feel kind of bad keep calling him that. His name is Dylan.
Call him Hornswoggle.
He actually, Dylan Hornswoggle. He talked about how he never had actually seen any of the Leprechaun films with Warwick Davis, and he actually decided not to watch any of them before filming because he didn't want that to affect his performance. And so he wanted it to be of his own kind of creation, and it's very different from the rest of the franchise, which a lot of people were not happy about. And the other thing about the leprechaun, not only does it not talk or look like a leprechaun at all, it gives me very much elves flashbacks. I'm sorry, Dylan. I'm sorry, but it's true. Or some other people have called him. I went through a lot of IMDb user reviews, and a lot of people refer to his getup as a decrepit pumpkin head. This seems to be the common denominator, or like as something from The Descent. A lot of people use those two phrases.
Yeah, I'm
of
looking
course,
up right
I
now.
was lucky enough to watch Elves, so I can also throw that in.
Nice.
I'm sorry, my chair keeps like being super squeaky. By the way, I have like an old fucking chair over here.
It's all good.
But yeah, so that's what his character looks like, and
It has
Yeah.
a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes on the tomato meter and a 10%
Really?
audience score.
I could have sworn I found like
One nice thing.
I Google maybe is 45%. Either way, it's not high. It's not high. A lot of people hated that one. And what's crazy too, okay, not a lot of people know this either. So the first and second Leprechaun had theatrical releases.
Mhm.
Now, right after that, everything was direct to video until Origins came out.
So I'm sorry, in the Hood, is that part of, which one was that? There's two of them.
Uh, there's two. You have Leprechaun in the Hood, which is number 5, and then Back to the Hood, which is number 6.
So those were straight to
And they yeah, all direct to video. And then
wow.
the third one though, the very first direct to video one that came out in 1995, Leprechaun 3, that one actually received an award for being the highest selling direct to video film of 1995. Yeah,
Brava.
but that didn't happen after that so much. Because after 3, of course, we're like, guess what? We're going to space.
And AMC is like, nah.
Oh, hey. So you may or may not love this. You know how I'm very much a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with a lot of horror movie stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I can connect Leprechaun to Halloween for you.
Don't you dare.
I can do it through one episode of Charmed.
Why are you doing this?
Now you want to hear it because you're curious. All right.
Sam, yes,
So
go.
there's an episode of Charmed. I got to tell you, an episode of Charmed where Danielle, who we all love and know, as Michael Myers' niece, Jamie, she plays on an episode of Charmed, Aviva, and in that episode, there's a demon that's like named Kali that's like trying to get her to be a part of the Charm Sisters so Kali can destroy them. Now, Kali is actually Princess Serena in Leprechaun 4 in space. Congratulations! I have connected Halloween to Leprechaun 4 in space for you. 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of thing. Yay me!
Congrats. Yeah.
Poor Dylan over here. You guys can't see him, but he's very distraught by all of this.
I'm very distraught. After Origins, there was another movie, correct? Or is Origins the last movie?
Returns is the last movie, and it actually came out in 2018. But I haven't watched that one yet. That's the only one I haven't watched yet.
Who's the Leprechaun? Do we know?
Actually, it's a kid. That's the only one where it's actually played by a kid.
What? The actor's name is Warwick Davis, correct?
Yes.
He's still active, isn't he? Like, can he come back? Does he want to come back?
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing, like a lot of people wondered why he didn't keep doing these films, like why he kind of stopped. And the whole thing was he was taking a break from his role as Leprechaun because of his kids. And like he was like, I don't really want to do horror right now. I don't want to be in that horror mindset or for my kids to watch any horror films. He's like, I would rather wait until my youngest turns 18 before I ever do another Leprechaun film again. Oddly enough, I looked it up. Mm-hmm. So 2021, this year, guess whose son turns 18?
Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. Because as silly and as...
what director is it?
Spielberg.
Go ahead and say what you're going to say. I'm looking for something.
Because despite...
Where is it?
The fact that I'll probably never watch a lot of these movies, I do love Leprechaun 1, and he steals the show. Warwick Davis puts in an amazing performance. He's hysterical. You need to accept that, this isn't, it's part comedy, as Sam says. This is it's horror and comedy. Have fun. And if you can accept that it's part comedy,
Yes.
you're going to have a blast. You really will have a blast.
Yeah, if you like enjoy those sort of movies and B-horror movies and ones where you can just laugh at the ridiculousness, you're gonna have fun. You're gonna enjoy them, and you're gonna love Warwick Davis because he puts so much into his character and his work. Like, he makes those movies even when they're fucking ridiculous.
Space, folks. Space.
But what I was gonna say is the director Darren Lynn Bousman, he has expressed for the last 10 years that he wants to do a Leprechaun film. And he wants to do one that is which, oh, by the way, if no one knows who Darren Lynn Bousman is, he directed the Saw films. So he wants to do a Leprechaun film, but he wants to set it in the Old West. So if we get one, it could very well be in the Old West. So, Cowboy Leprechaun. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw, indeed. Maybe they could get Clint Eastwood to do an appearance. Leprechaun versus Clint Eastwood.
That would be funny. Or have, like, in the background, like, sipping whiskey at a bar. And, like, the leprechaun just, like, says something to him and walks away.
These are genius ideas.
Fantastic. Yeah, you just put Leprechaun in any situation. That's what it's really all about.
Sam.
So, Dylan, do you have any other questions for me about Leprechaun?
I actually have a huge question for you. It being St. Patty's Day.
Yes.
I have my Guinness ready. I have my boiled dinner ready. I'm ready to have an Irish evening. Give me one of the leprechauns that you think I would enjoy. And apparently, as Sam has said before, continuity means nothing. They don't care. So you can jump in at any point. If you could recommend one,
exactly,
not Leprechaun 1, obviously, for me to watch, what would it be?
I would make you watch In Space. You guys, Dylan is a huge Star Wars fan. And because of Warwick Davis's role in the Star Wars films, he's in, I want to say, every single one. There are elements that they put into In Space for that reason. And also, it's funny and absurd, and I need Dylan to watch it.
I need Dylan to watch it.
Would you like to know one of my favorite character deaths from In Space?
Oh, please tell me. What is that evil chuckle?
Oh, are you there?
I'm here.
You're frozen.
I'm here.
Oh, there we go. Okay. We had a technical issue there for a second.
We are live.
So would you like to know one of my favorite character deaths?
Tell me.
From In Space?
Yep. I want to know.
It's a bit of a spoiler. This is not an excuse to not watch it, by the way.
I think I'll live.
Okay, so one of the things is there's a group of Marines that are in space. By the way, the word leprechaun does not get uttered once in Leprechaun 4. It's not said once in the entire film. And you want to know why? Because they're dealing with aliens in space. They actually don't know what the fuck Warwick Davis is. So he gets referred to as, like, monster and bastard, and, like, never once is the word leprechaun used. But one of my favorite character deaths, I guess, would be Warwick Davis actually explodes out of one of the Marines' dicks.
How am I supposed to take that?
And the reason why is because he's in, like, some sort of cave at first with, like, an alien princess when the Marines show up, and, like, one of the Marines thinks that he killed the leprechaun by, like, exploding it, but then, like, he's, like, making fun of him, and, like, he's like, yeah, I'm, like, gonna like piss on the leprechaun's corpse, and while he's doing that, his fucking like, I don't know, essence or whatever goes up the pee stream into his dick. And then later on, once he's on the ship, he explodes out of his dick.
Fuck, Sam. I don't want to take this.
Happy viewing, kids. I'm even wearing my Leprechaun 4 in space shirt right now that I just got from Tapes of the Crypt, and one of the sleeves says, "As Shakespeare said, shit happens." Yeah.
I'm at a loss for words right now. That is, I thought you were gonna sing a Leprechaun 2 or 3 because it still holds some of the original essence of the first movie, but you want to send me to space.
I mean, that's because I just really want to subject you to it. If you were to actually watch another one, probably 3, honestly. 3 makes a little bit more sense in regards to like greed and money because it takes place in Vegas. There's coin machines.
Oh, I've
There's
heard of that
like
one.
slots. There's a lot going on. Yeah, and like a lot of people actually, like based off of like what I was viewing when I was researching it, there are so many people who actually view 3 as the best one. And I think, what is it? I think even Warwick Davis said, yeah, 3 is also Warwick Davis's favorite. So if you were to watch another one, it would be 3. If you want, honestly.
But if you want to get your Star Wars fix in, Leprechaun 4.
If you want to just go straight into absurdity, go ahead and skip to 4. Alrighty, well, before we end our little St. Patty's special here, we have one other branch off movie to talk about besides the Leprechaun films, which is some actual Irish horror. Let's talk about The Hollow.
What is your first
initial thoughts?
Yes.
Let's hear them. I want to hear your initial thoughts.
Okay,
first,
so
I've been talking about
Sam said, "All right, Dylan, I want you to watch this movie called The Hollow," and I'm like, Sam doesn't have the best track record of recommending me things, so I'm like,
hey,
Leprechaun 4. So I put on The Hollow, and Sam could have sold this movie to me by uttering 2 words, and those 2 words.
Game of Thrones
is Roose Bolton. The true Warden of the North is in this movie. And I love that actor. He just plays, it's Roose Bolton. There's a scene in the movie where the dad like is coming back from town and he's like fiddling around. He's trying to get something for his kid, and he looks up, and of course I thought it was going to be a deer or a monster or something. No, it's Roose Bolton in the road, and the car stops, and I'm like, the car was afraid to hit Roose Bolton. And Roose is
oh my god, you would think that.
He doesn't blink. He just stares at him like, what are you doing? And he just kind of drives around him, and Roose Bolton's just sitting there like, dude.
Did you even notice that the main actor, the one who almost hits him, is another Game of Thrones actor?
Who?
You didn't notice?
I didn't.
He's Benjen Stark.
Get out.
He's Benjen Stark. Yeah.
I did not say. I can't even say like he looked familiar. Wow, it's Benjen Stark.
Yeah. It was, for me, it was more of their voices. I recognized their voices. His face was a little familiar, but like definitely like after watching Game of Thrones, there's just a certain way Game of Thrones actors talk, and you're like, you were on Game of Thrones. You know what I'm talking about? Tell me I'm not crazy here.
what they all were in like English theater. They all probably did Shakespeare. They're all like masterfully trained actors. Yes.
No, it's like, I mean, sure, yeah, there's that, but I just mean like there's this kind of like a tone, a demeanor, a presence, all right, that they all carry. They have that. This,
Mm.
this Game of Thrones. It's part of why they were probably invited to be on the show in the first place. But yeah, what else did you think about this movie besides Roose Bolton?
Bruce fucking Bolton. God damn. It was very reminiscent of The Shining, with the exception of the little boy having
Really, The
powers.
Shining?
Yeah, The Shining.
I never thought to think of The Shining.
I
How did
mean,
you get that?
once again, it's not a direct, rip-off. I'm saying you have the two parents and the child. They are isolated. Like in this case, it's the Hollow. They're constantly being tormented.
Another cabin in the woods.
Cabin in the woods. They're being tormented. The dad, towards the end of the film, starts kind of losing himself to the Overlook Hotel / the Hollow.
Holy shit, you're right. It's totally The Shining.
With
I
Roose
didn't catch
Bolton.
that.
I mean,
Well, I'll tell you some other things too.
Tell us.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, no, just to give
So it.
Damn it. All right, Sam, tell us your tale.
So all I was going to tell is that it is a dark fairy tale. A lot of the inspiration for this film was he wanted the director Corin Hardy wanted to kind of center around like Irish folk tales.
Mm-hmm.
And he also wanted to combine a couple subgenres of body horror and creature feature. He wanted those two elements. Some of his other cited influences that inspired him for this film were Alien, Evil Dead, The Fly, and The Thing. Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of other influences there. And then another really interesting thing was I noticed the kind of British-Irish element to the film. Like the couple that comes to stay there in Ireland, and it was actually shot in Ireland too. They are British, and like they're dealing with all these Irish superstitions, and the Irish folk in the town are like upset with this British couple because the husband's job is to basically destroy parts of the forest. And they're like, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. That's like where the Hollow lives. There are things out there you don't understand. And I was like, it's interesting that it's British Irish, considering the actual history between Britain and Ireland and the things Britain did to Ireland. And then I was very shocked to find this out, but it's actually a British Irish co-production. It was a co-production, and I was like, oh, okay, so we're very aware of what we're pointing out here. This is a very self-aware film.
That's really interesting.
But yeah, it was basically like, yeah, lots of horror films, you have different types of slashers or creatures or things like that. And this one, he wanted to kind of focus in on the Irish one. So that's why you have things like the iron on the windows, or you have just any kind of superstition revolving around like the Fae, essentially. Yeah.
Well, that's a train of thought. Do you have a favorite moment in the movie? Because there are no deaths in this, but how did you like?
Yeah, very dark atmosphere, kind of a very tense movie. And then the ending too is even kind of sad a little bit, but like,
The ending made me
so
really
one
sad.
of the other things in the movie is like, yeah, the Hollow itself. So this was a kind of interesting touch on it, is that like the Fae creatures, they have like this black goo, and it has like spikes that shoot out of it, and it infects people, kind of like a parasite. And when they like, as the people are trying to get away from them, it's like it takes over those things. So for example, the car, it takes over the engine of the car so that he can't start it and get out of there. And like, there's two scenes that I really liked in the film. Number one, I like the original concept here is that like, okay, he had the baby in the car, he's trying to get home as fast as he can, and it's getting dark, and the engine goes out, and then he's trying to fix the engine, and he goes to get something from the trunk. And keep in mind, the baby's in the car the whole time, and while he's getting something from the trunk, one of the creatures jumps on the hood of the trunk, knocks him out. And so he wakes up locked in the trunk, hearing his baby crying in the car while something's trying to get into the car and get his kid. And his car's broke down in the middle of the woods. That is such a tense situation. Like, I was trying to imagine, I was like, what the fuck would I even do in that situation? That's so scary. Like, you're locked in the trunk, you have to figure a way out, and you know something's trying to get your kid right now in the rest of the car. And he ends up fucking like kicking through the seat, like ripping it apart and like getting through just the nick of time before it gets in the car. The other thing I really liked was when they're trying to get the generator on, because light kind of scares the creatures away. And the mom is up in the attic with the baby to stay safe, and he is out in the shed trying to get the generator started. And the black goo is basically attacking them both, and it's like there's an actual hand like coming through, like while she's trying to hold the attic door shut. And all of a sudden, oh my god, this is just so tense. And like, she's holding the door shut, the hand comes through, and while the hand can't reach her, all of a sudden that thing starts to come out of its finger and starts slowly approaching. It's like a needle, starts slowly approaching her eye, because that's kind of how they infect you, is they like poke you in the eye. And she's just sitting there like holding the door, she can't move, and watching this thing come so close to her eye before he finally gets the generator and the lights on. And I'm like, oh my god,
that was a great scene.
This is tense. The goo itself, like being all like black and sticky looking with its spikes and having that parasitic quality, it actually kind of reminded me of like an indie horror film I saw like a decade ago. It was called Splinter. Came out in 2008.
How was that?
It looks almost just like that. Yeah.
It's not a criticism from me, but when it comes, this isn't the first time I've been experienced to like evil black goo. In video games, in movies, it's very common, and they did a really good job with it, and I really liked it. I'm tired of black goo. I'm really tired of it. I get too much black goo in my life.
But on the flip side of black goo, you did also have those creepy creatures that were also trying to get in the house at the same time, or that
I
were
really
like
like
in
the creatures.
cavern.
I really like the creatures.
I don't know if you know this, probably not. It's so one of the really cool things Corin Hardy did with those creatures is he combined actual like FX makeup and prosthetics with just a little bit of CGI. He wanted to try and keep it as, you know, realistic as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then he only used a little CGI to make those creatures bigger, to like extend them in some way. Things he couldn't quite do effectively with prosthetics. And he said like he kind of got that inspiration a little bit from Planet of the Apes, because it kind of does a similar thing of, you know, combining the prosthetics with just a little bit of CGI to keep that realness and that fluidity. So, and the whole thing, just so the viewers know, with the creatures in the film is it's basically like the Fae when they infect you. It's to assimilate you into like the hollow, and so that it's like human beings who were turned into creatures. Oh, that was another really tense scene for me. was when the family is like trying to get away and they get in the car and they start like they're trying to get the car started, and then when they do, they take off, but like all of a sudden they're in that field, and then they're the creatures are like throwing things at the windshield, which is so smart. Oh my god, like rather than like chase the car like, you know, a dumb creature, these things throw things at the windshield so that she can't see where she's going. So then the car flips into a ditch and they're in the middle of a field, and you just hear the sounds of like the groans and the wails as these things are getting closer, and they need to like hurry up and get out of the car and get the baby out of the car and like run as these things are getting closer. I'm like, oh my god, tense.
Yeah, when that
Car flipped into that ditch, like it made me very uneasy, because one thing that made this whole movie very uneasy was they had a baby with them the entire time. So you hear the groaning of these creatures, but at the same time you hear a child screaming. Like, it made it just so unnerving, because if it was like a little kid, they could at least be scared or in shock. Like, the baby is crying this whole movie, and it just puts you even more on edge.
Yeah. But you know what else? I noticed this while I was watching it. They also made that baby cry and scream a lot on purpose, because when they start talking about the baby being a changeling and not, because like the Hollows are like trying to steal the baby, when they start talking about it being a changeling and like her getting like back the wrong baby, I was like, it is the wrong baby, because the one that she has is like suddenly really quiet. It's not crying and screaming, well, even while she's running around like crazy. And I'm like, you made the baby cry and scream on purpose so that we as the audience would kind of know there's a difference, like that's not the right baby.
Yeah, once oh god, that was horrible. I mean, this is also, the mom in this
Is super mom, because they take her baby like into the hollow, and she's like, I'm getting my baby back. She sees the thing sink into the lake, and she jumps right in after it, and she has the baby, and I'm like, Jesus, what? Oh my god, like this is like stressing me out. I immediately, the baby wasn't crying
in the dark. She jumped in the water.
Yeah, no. She has the baby, but one thing they also did, they were not showing the baby's face. Like, if the baby was always kind of up against her, and I was like, let me see the face, let me see the face, let me see the face. And they weren't doing that. I'm like, oh, fuck.
I'm also sure that, like, you know, because the mom, having got the kid back, you know, thinking like, I've won, I've got my kid back. She didn't really think about the fact that she was able to walk back from the lake to the house and not have all the creatures in the wood attack her. You know? Little suspicious.
After everything she's been through,
maybe it's just like, oh god, they're tired, like whatever, like I have my baby, like I won a round. But fuck.
Yeah, this was an overall a pretty good film, and I was thinking about it at the end when it kind of was like showing the spoiler alert, the forest like actually being torn down.
That was
and
the
like
saddest part of the movie.
goo was once again dogs. I was thinking about it, and I was like, honestly, if this director Corin Hardy, if he were to produce a sequel to this film, I would watch it.
Oh,
I would
absolutely.
watch a sequel to this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another thing I really liked about this is in the very beginning, Roose Bolton, he's doing everything he can to like get this family out of there. And I think they find out somehow, I think the cop tells them that his daughter like went missing in the woods and was never seen again. She's with the creatures, and she's turned. And that was just such a small added thing. Like, they could have just had like another creature holding the baby, but it was actually the daughter. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of sad right up until, again, spoiler. So plug your ears if you don't want to hear this.
Oh, this is
until the father just I know, but just in case people are like, like I really like what I'm hearing, I'm gonna stop listening to this podcast real quick and go watch this. Um, when that part was so sad and sweet, and especially when she held out her hand and showed the binky that the baby dropped that she
Mm-hmm.
had picked up, but also like I shouldn't have chuckled, but I did, because like then when the father's like defending the mom and the baby and the little girl comes up like trying to take it, he just straight up chopped her head off, and I was like, oh, okay, no more Katie. Bye, Katie.
I also love the reveal when he takes off the eye patch and his eye that was once red after he was like, infected, like you see him slowly starting to turn. I thought that was a great little
Yeah.
touch.
The way the eye just kind of like sinks into his head is so creepy. And then the spikes like coming out of his body.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting concept to kind of combine, the idea of these Irish folktales, the Fae, with this, again, this parasitic kind of entity to it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Also, because you told me he was Benjen, I realized, wait, so in Game of Thrones, he becomes not a White Walker, but, one of the White Walker's army. Like he transforms. And in this movie, he also transforms.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
He's just very good at that thing. Joseph Mall, the actor's name. Joseph Mall is just very good at that.
I guess so. But
Yeah.
I
So
can't
if this
recommend that
St.
movie
Patty's
enough.
Day, if this St. Patty's Day you're looking for, humor and to laugh at some absurd movies, you can watch The Leprechaun. But if you're also looking for a little bit more of a dark atmosphere with some traditions that are actually from Ireland, go ahead and watch, The Hollow for your horror screening.
It is on Amazon Prime for free right now, so I would definitely check it out because they just really hit it out of the park. I mean, if I'm gonna be picky, I wish we learned a little bit more lore. I wish we had that scene where they go to Roose Bolton and he tells them about like the origins of these creatures or something like that. The movie didn't need it, but I love me some origin stories, so
Yeah, I
maybe in the
honestly thought
sequel.
when Roose Bolton left the book behind to the mother,
Mm-hmm.
remember, he just like walks in the house and he drops the book on the table and leaves, and it's like a book that kind of explains what's going on but also doesn't. I thought they were going to show like a scene of the mom like reading it and like
Mm-hmm.
figuring more out about what's going on, but the only thing they did was like show the dad take a quick look at it and then just drop it, and he's like, it's nothing but Irish fairy tales.
I mean, I think the
But
last
again, that
time,
was like part of the.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But I mean, I think the last thing you see is the book opens, and it's a mother, a child, and like a father, but he's also part of the Hollow. And I
Yeah, you
couldn't
can
actually
be
read.
informed.
I couldn't read what it said at the bottom, but I was like, oh shit. See, this is why you listen to Roose Bolton when
Yeah.
he tells you what's up. It's like, all right, Roose.
I think with him, that bit being a book of Irish fairy tales and then him not believing it, because this is one of those movies where the parents kind of go for that more rational explanation. Like they're trying to rationalize what's happening to them. But it's one of those things where, again, Corin Hardy was like, let me introduce these elements, and like there's this whole thing of there's truth to fairy tale sort of thing. So like had they actually considered it, kind of looked at it from that perspective, which, the mom with her intuitive momness at one point in the film, she was like, the husband's about to rationalize it to her, and she goes, no, this is the Hollow. You saw what I saw. That's the Hollow. It's real.
Yeah, they just
She was like,
chased them.
don't feed me. She's like, I'm scientific too, honey, but don't feed me that crap. I know what I saw. That's another thing. At the beginning of the film, when the husband is like doing his surveillance of the forest for his job, and he finds the dead deer
Mm-hmm.
that with the parasite in it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got the baby on his back, right? And he like decides to go closer to it and take a look at it. I was sitting there going like, "What are you, bro? You have a baby. What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then like when he got down and started pulling it apart and looking at the parasite, I was like, "Bro, stop! You have the baby with you. You don't know what that is." I could have saved him the whole movie if he just left that deer alone.
You and me both on that whole thing. I mean, I love exploring as much as the next guy. I mean, I love going to abandoned places and just looking around, but not when you have a child on your back. What? You're just.
Yeah.
I was the same as Sam. Like, bro, bring the baby back, and then go explore. You don't bring a baby into an
Yeah,
abandoned
and go back.
residence. And then the whole dead
Yeah,
deer
don't
thing.
do your science thing with the baby there.
Don't worry, little boy. I'm just gonna move this dead deer and get me a sample. That's divorce right there. If I see my mother doing that, like this is divorce right now.
Yeah, let me get a little sample of this clearly potential parasite or fungus that I'm looking at while you're on my back. No harm could possibly come from this.
But before shit goes down, he's being very flirtatious with his wife, and she's like, all those ants and fungi got you all ready, huh? And he's like, you know I like some ants and fungi, so I mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Very sciencey man. Very science, very rational. That's him. Which is again why he was like, it's nothing but fairy tales, until the mom was like, no, stop. It's clearly true, and we need to get the fuck out of Ireland.
One more quick scene, because I really just enjoyed this movie. I love the cop comes to the house after the first break-in, and he's like, oh, these are superstitious folk. I mean, I like his line of, this isn't England. Things go bump in the night. And he's just kind of playing everything down. He's like, everything's fine. He gets in the car and he's just like, oh, Jesus. Well, just like wipes his face and is like clearly distressed. He's like, I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
I
like that too. I think it was either the cop or Roose Bolton. I forget which character says it, or maybe even like Roose Bolton's son. They talk about how like when they were remodeling this house, they're like, it would be best if you would have your wife like put the bars back on the iron bars back on the windows, And I was like, just that it was so subtle, but just creepy enough, just a creepy thing to say, Of course I knew what they meant, but like I can only imagine, you're a couple in the middle of the woods, you're remodeling this house, and you're surrounded by these woods that you don't know or understand yet. And for one of the locals to tell you it would be wise if you put those bars back on the windows, I was just like, yeah, that's a good creepy line right there. Like that.
To our viewers, if you ever go exploring once COVID is over, you go overseas, go to a new place, and a local tells you something, you listen. Just listen.
Yes. But also be wary of what locals tell you. Because if you watch Leprechaun Origins, that will tell you to also be wary of what locals tell you. Because they might try to kidnap you and feed you to a leprechaun.
I have no comment on that. I have no comment.
But also on a somewhat side note, respect the Fae if you believe in them. Respect tradition, respect superstition. People have them. Don't fuck with things you don't understand. Just enjoy your Guinness at home.
One of my favorite lines from any horror movie ever is from The Right with Anthony Hopkins. I thoroughly enjoyed it. critics didn't, but I thought it was great. And he's dealing with this non-believer, and Anthony Hopkins goes, not believing in the devil won't protect you from him.
Yeah. Nice.
Listen to Sir Anthony
I like
Hopkins.
that. I like that. That's a good ending line right there.
Me and Sam are just kind of smiling, nodding at each other, like, yeah, we know what's up.
Yeah. You know, we didn't even say this at the beginning of the episode, but like real quick before we say goodbye, are you Irish?
No.
No, you're not Irish, not even a little.
Because how pale I am.
I'm
well,
pale you.
I just thought, no, my family, I want to do ancestry.com. I want to figure out my whole line. I think that'd be really cool. But my mom's family is directly from Germany. So
okay, so predominant German.
Yeah. I feel like that's where I'm mostly going to come out of. What about you?
Very, very similar. I'm predominantly like German and Dutch, but overall I'm like 10, 12 different fucking things. I'm a huge European mutt. So
I think we all are.
I have like a little bit of Irish in me.
We're all European
mutts.
Well,
you really look at my list that I have and you're just like, wow, yeah, all of Europe got together, had a giant orgy, and then there was you. That explains a lot. little elements of each. So yeah, small element of Irish in there.
And on that note, the orgy that gave us Sam, please. God damn it. Please let us know what you thought about the Leprechaun movies if you've seen them. Please check out The Hollow. It's not that well known, and movies like this definitely need like more views on these streaming services because they look at this shit like, oh, a lot of people seem to be into this. It helps them. So go watch The Hollow. Watch Leprechaun if you choose. I'm mainly thinking about Space and Into Hood, which I'm just not fond of. But I think this St. Patty's Day I'll be checking out 3. Because if the main actor says this is my favorite, then I'm immediately drawn to it.
Yeah. And again, I think you'll like number 3. And hopefully our viewers will like these movies as well.
Let us know what you think.
Otherwise, other than that, happy St. Patty's Day, guys.
Happy St. Patty's. Enjoy your Guinness. And try and get the idea of a giant orgy creating Sam out of your head. Because I'm trying right now, and I'm really, really struggling. So on that note, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. And we will see you all. I believe we're doing a summer special, but that's a few months out. But I'm excited for that.
To be continued.
To be continued. Until our next holiday, have a good one, guys.